And welcome to IG's early morning call on IG Live on Monday, the 24th of April, 2023. Coming up in today's program, Credit Suisse, 61 billion Swiss francs, has left the bank in Q1. And we have a special focus on US earnings too, because it is the busiest week of the quarter. And oil prices, well, oil's on the slide and concerned over the economy and about further rate hikes. First, let's take a look at the volatility index for you as you start the week. It's still 7:30 here in the UK, but we are motoring towards the early session in Europe. The focus on the volatility index here, as you can see, has shifted somewhat to inflation as the receding fears surrounding banking stocks meant the VIX fell to its lowest level since around this point here, and way back to, if you wanted to get quite technical about it, November 2021. Now, with 30 minutes to go until the European market open, this is how it's looking across Europe. Just checking on the France 40 for you, seeing indications of a slight fall there. Also for the FTSE, a similar picture as you can see there. And for the DAX, which normally follows the FTSE and the CAC as well. Yep, similar picture mirrored there too. Now, over last week, European stocks ended a fifth week higher as of last Friday, due in part to upbeat earnings from SAP and EssilorLuxottica, offsetting a slump in miners. Now, over in Asia, investors not wanting to take big positions there ahead of mega tech earnings, including Apple, Microsoft, and Meta. Banks also feature heavily alongside central banks this week. Canada and Sweden's central banks, of course, meeting this week, but the focus will be very much on the Bank of Japan's first meeting, chaired by its new governor, Kazuo Ueda. Now, overnight in Asia, Japan's Nikkei nudged up slightly, the Hang Seng, and elsewhere outside of Japan, we're seeing a slight easing there, while Australia's ASX was weighed down by mining stocks after Chile moved to strengthen state control over its lithium industry. And just want to recap for those of you who are trading Wall Street. Here's a look at Wall Street for you. There you go on the chart. Now, Wall Street for the week, the S&P and the Dow and the NASDAQ lost a few tenths of a percent. The anticipation, of course, as I mentioned, all those big results from the likes of Amazon, Microsoft, and also Meta. Amazon keeping investors particularly cautious. Its shares rose 3% on Friday after research firms said the retail giant's North American numbers are likely to beat the street. And I can tell you, looking at these numbers here, that if volumes hold, we could be seeing a slightly lower open when Wall Street starts going. Now to the UK, and Rightmove's house price index rose by 0.2% in April, month on month. In March, the index rose by 0.8%, and compared with a year earlier, asking prices were 1.7% higher, down from a 3% reading in March. Later on in the session, Germany's Ifo Business Climate Index is expected to rise to 93.7 in April, from 93.3 in March. Now, if we get this reading, it would be a small rise for the 6th one in a row, and it would maintain the index at a level not seen since 2022. Confidence amongst German businesses seem to resist the recent banking turmoil and the rise of borrowing costs. And later this week, we are looking out for the GfK consumer confidence as well. And on Friday, look out for first quarter GDP growth rate numbers, the unemployment rate, and consumer price index as well. Just taking a look at the euro, because all those pose quite a few opportunities for those of you that trade this cross. As you can see there, it's been a steady climb higher, but we are seeing this band here between 10,600 and 10,982 thereabouts, and it's finding it quite hard. This cross is finding it quite hard to break above that band. Now, another piece of data that we are looking out for, coming from down under this time. The RBA has trimmed its mean CPI, which is the Australian Central Bank's favoured reading of inflation. Economists expect the index growth to slow to 1.4% in the first quarter compared to the last 3 months of 2022. Anything higher, closer to the 1.7% recorded 3 months ago, would make the RBA perhaps think twice ahead of its next decision on May the 2nd. Last week, the RBA revealed, this is the minutes, revealed that Australian policymakers considered hiking rates for an 11th time last month. But they decided to stay put at 3.6% in the end, but were nonetheless concerned by recent employment data. Full-time employment in particular surged by 72,200 after a similar increase in February, helping to keep the unemployment rate near 50-year lows. Full-time employment is particularly important as it gives visibility to households and confidence to increase spending. Since the RBA's last decision, its Governor Philip Lowe has been repeating that the pause did not imply that the hikes in interest rates were over. Whatever happens on Wednesday, the Australian dollar will be a currency to watch. Just showing you the Aussie dollar here against the dollar. The US dollar rather, and as you can see here, it has been coming off there and also meandering between the 6,500 mark and the 6,800. This is, of course, after the RBA signaled a pause to see how previous rate hikes are filtering into the wider economy. If you want to read more about this and the Australian economy, look out for IG market analyst Tony Sycamore's article published on the IG website. Now, the war of words is heating up between HSBC and its biggest shareholder, Ping An, the latter accusing the bank of not giving its strategic ideas sufficient hearing. The Chinese insurer has been urging the bank to consider strategic options, one of them being the spin-off of its Asia business. HSBC's response was that these plans were discussed on 20 occasions, around that number, but had consistently said they would destroy shareholder value and would be too costly to implement. Over the weekend, ISS, an HSBC shareholder advisor, sided with the bank on the issue, joining another advisor, Glass Lewis, who said that the Ping An plan lacked merit. Shareholders are due to vote on these options at the bank's AGM on May the 5th. Now, a huge number of British companies are due to report earnings this week. Here are some of the notable ones: GlaxoSmithKline, or GSK rather, in the rebranding. Standard Chartered on Wednesday. AstraZeneca is also due to hand in its report card alongside Sainsbury's and Barclays, and of course NatWest as well. Now, Credit Suisse has revealed this morning that 61 billion Swiss francs were withdrawn in the first quarter, adding that, quote, these outflows have moderated but have not yet reversed. This announcement came alongside what is likely to be the last set of earnings published by the Swiss bank, as its marriage with UBS is expected to be completed soon. The group reported an adjusted pre-tax loss of 1.3 billion Swiss francs in the quarter. Common Equity Tier 1 ratio rose to just over 20%, driven by the write-down of 81 capital notes. Assets managed by the Wealth Management Division fell to 502 billion Swiss francs from 707 billion reported for the same quarter a year ago. UBS is due to report earnings later in the week. Now, Philips reported a much better than expected 47% jump in Q1 core profit to 359 million euros. Revenue was also better than anticipated, 4.2 billion euros there. Analysts had forecast just around 4 billion. But the group had to set aside 575 million euros for possible litigation costs relating to its global recall of respiratory machines. And staying with earnings, Coca-Cola is set to report earnings at around lunchtime today. The street expects earnings of around 64 cents per share, flat compared to the same quarter a year ago if it hits that number. First quarter sales expected to rise around 3% to around $10 billion. Now, in the past 12 months, Coca-Cola's share price, I can show you here, has been quite interesting because it has actually, if you look at it from a full year, it has pretty much plateaued, as you can see there. It came down, climbed back up again, and if my memory serves me correctly, it has declined around 2.1% if we go back to the last 12 months. Coca-Cola, if you remember, did quite well in lockdown as more and more people drank and ate and entertained at home and watched possibly too much streaming movies. And then as people came out of lockdown, they've also had the revenge travel and entertainment travel theme in play. Lots of people going back out and perhaps overdoing it and drinking all these kind of entertainment related drinks as well. Now, there's plenty more to come this week, arguably the busiest of the quarter. Tomorrow we have Microsoft, Alphabet, General Motors, Visa, McDonald's. Wednesday, Boeing and Meta report, and Thursday, Amazon, Altria, Caterpillar, Intel and Snap. And on Friday, we have Chevron and ExxonMobil, the oil majors, reporting numbers. These stocks are all sessions on the IG platform. Last week, Baker Hughes' total rig account rose to 753, 5 more than the previous count. The number of oil rigs in operation increased by 3 to 591, the first rise in 4 weeks. Oil prices, let me show you, are down slightly. I believe at the moment it's been quite a volatile time for crude. Here is the chart up for you. It's I can tell you that it is down around 1.2% there, but it is still early in the session. 3 weeks ago, oil prices jumped, of course, after OPEC surprised the market with an output cut, opening a gap on both WTI and Brent charts. Technical analysis says that every gap will be filled, or suggests that every gap will be filled, which suggests that oil prices would have to perhaps go down a bit more. To know more about gaps and how to trade them, do have a look at our daily FX piece on trading the gaps. What are they and how to trade them? That's on the platform. And that's it for now. Before letting go, let's have a quick look at the equity markets. France, CAC 40 is looking pretty similar. As I mentioned earlier, all these indices, the FTSE and also the DAX Germany 40 on the platform, indicating slight falls, but not by much as we get to the open. That's it for now. Let's remind you of some of the other shows later today. We have charting, of course, always at 10:30, and do look out for our socials. I believe we've got one on UBS Credit Suisse later this morning. Until then, I'm Angeline Ong, and this is IGTV.